Brothers Studios recently unveiled their slate for 2021. All the movies that you and I can look forward to in theaters, hopefully soon. But see, I'm not an expert in filmmaking or what people should do with their money. But what I am saying is that, paying attention to the last 10 years of media, streaming is king. It's where everything is going and where everything has been, honestly. With that, studios need to make changes. Everybody needs to adapt. It's just that with change can come disaster. And the theater going experience isn't just for fun. It's not just for the entertainment of it all. The business side has hundreds of thousands of jobs and a part of the culture that is in jeopardy. Streaming is king, yes, but the theater going experience is art. Now, in the grand scheme of things, this year has been flooded with issues. I'm not going to pretend that what we're going to talk about here today is the biggest issue of 2020, but a year has passed and theaters have suffered. AMC Theaters is now having to sell stock for $127 million just to stay afloat. It boggles my mind. AMC Theaters is near bankruptcy and has been because of COVID-19, because of 2020. This is serious. Truth is, I want to talk about this because I find it interesting and alarming at the same time. What's happened with theaters and what is happening with HBO Max and Warner Brothers Studios. See, HBO launched HBO Max during a pandemic. I mean, that kind of sounds like a no-brainer. Everyone's gonna be locked inside. They're gonna want some content. Give them that shiny new toy. Give them a reason to go to your streaming service, view your catalog, stick around month to month. Well, they didn't get the numbers they were looking for. I mean, let's just be honest here. Disney Plus launched and it killed pretty much instantaneously. Once they had The Mandalorian going, more and more people got on. And I believe they made 4 times the amount of subscribers than they originally thought they would make. HBO, they didn't even land a deal with Roku. It wouldn't stick out as much as a problem if HBO wasn't priced where it is. It currently sits higher than any other streaming service. And unless you're an established one like Netflix, I don't think you're really gonna grab too many people right off the bat being as expensive as you are. That's not to say it's a bad catalog. I promise you, I found tons of content. I mean, an endless amount of hours on HBO Max of good quality work. I just don't think that it's anything that's going to grab people in and tell them, hey, take a look at everything else here. This is where they had to come up with something. They needed that attention grabber for a mainstream audience, a wider audience than what they currently had. And then the announcement. And so Warner Brothers did it. They announced that all their movies, every single one, for 2021 will be released in theaters and also on their streaming service, HBO Max. There's a lot of promise there. Space Jam 2, Matrix 4, Dune, Godzilla vs. Kong, The Batman, The Suicide Squad. Many, many other titles to be excited about. They got my attention. They got a lot of people's attention. But let's take a look behind the announcement because there's so much more to unpack here that has everybody talking. Let's go upstairs for that one. Okay, so movie theaters. There was a lot going on behind why people weren't showing up to theaters anymore, way before COVID-19. But specifically here, COVID-19 was just a giant leap towards the collapse of the movie-going experience. See, being crammed into a small room with strangers for an hour to even 2.5 with an airborne virus, that didn't really seem all that appealing anymore. They weren't even legally allowed to operate for a while there, and when they were finally allowed to open with adjusted capacity, well, this happened. Now, Tenet was a guinea pig. If anybody was going to bring people back into the theaters, it was a Christopher Nolan film. But it didn't. Very few people showed up. Not nearly enough. It was a failure by most regards. You see, Tenet had a budget of $205 million. And in the US, it only brought back about $58 million. That's big. That's a blow to Warner Brothers Studios. That's compared to years before. In any other year, a Christopher Nolan film was one of the biggest movies of the year. It's almost night and day when you compare the success of his past 5 films to Tenet. And others notice, I mean, they are very, very hesitant about this. Christopher Nolan, Tenet, Warner Brothers' biggest film of the year, arguably, could not bring people back to the theaters. That's why if you are another studio and you have a major budget film, you were hesitant as hell to release it during COVID-19. You know, under normal social circumstances, filmmakers were allowed to go out and provide to you through the theaters that initial first impression, the experience that they specifically put together for you as a product. Nobody was making films for an 11-inch or smaller smartphone. That just wasn't happening. Nobody. I mean, you can do it. You can watch them on your phone, but you miss half of the experience, arguably. The opening weekend crowd, the giant, potentially IMAX screen you are going to with Dolby surround sound. It's just unlike anything else to view this movie with. I don't care how much money you put into your home theater system, it's not going to ever replicate what we can experience going to a theater. It's all tuned to the director's intent, creators, artists' intent. And the filmmakers, they know this. Nolan knows this. Warner Brothers knows this. Editors know this. Cinematographers know this. Designers know this. Producers know this. And so much more that came together to deliver a shared experience, fine-tuned through what a theater can offer you. Now, how well of a job they did will dictate how much you enjoyed that experience, but at least they got the opportunity to properly give you that first impression of their product. You know, you got to go and share a hilarious line with a crowd, a compelling actor with a crowd, a huge plot twist with a crowd. This is stuff that together you and strangers got to share when you leave. There's the world outside the theater and what's happening in the theater. Just a temporary escape. Even if it's bad, you and others walk out knowing that together you wasted your time. But alright, we get it. Theaters matter, shared experience, blah, blah, blah. Get to the point already. Fine, I will. Now what I'm about to say is dramatic in tone. I understand that. But Warner Brothers' decision to drop their movies same weekend on their streaming service HBO Max is absolutely plausible to work. It makes a lot of sense. It could very well work for streaming, and it could be the death of the movie-going experience. Hear me out. How easy is it to plan a date? Find out ahead of time what's going to be a good window for you to get free from whatever it is going on in your life, be it home life, work life, social life, whatever. Get dressed, get in your car, go to the theater. Let's say you have kids. Well, now you gotta find somebody to watch the kids, unless you plan on bringing them with you, but in which case you're gonna be watching them and watching the film. Then when you do get there, you're going to have to pay for arguably overpriced concessions. You know, your drinks, your foods, whatever. Then you take the risk of being in that room of strangers we talked about before, and not everybody's on board with being decent. So you got the flashing phone, you got the loud interrupter, you got the people standing in your way, you got the constant shifting seats. Or you just sit on your couch, turn on your TV, open an app, and watch your movie. I mean, even I can't argue one is significantly more convenient than the other. How can I tell you get dressed and go to a theater when you can just sit down in your home robe? Yes, get a home robe. This is where I get nervous because, again, others pay attention to this. This is, once again, a guinea pig move. If this does the numbers that Warner Brothers can hope for their streaming service HBO Max and launch them into success like Disney Plus has had, like even a Netflix has, it could be game over. Why? If you're watching this, wouldn't you do the same thing with your studio's movies? What a movie makes in and out of the box office is hilariously different. But if you put a movie that can entice an average viewer, which is most, to check out your streaming service, HBO Max, who not a lot of people have apparently checked out, and then get enticed to stick around month to month, that's promising. That's very promising. Regardless of the amount of money, again, hilarious different amount of money that it would have made in theaters rather than just on your service. There's a lot going on behind the scenes here too, because Legendary Studios, compared to the behemoth that is Warner Brothers Studios, is threatening to take them to court. And we're in a situation where Legendary has a very strong chance of winning this. See, Warner Brothers has distribution rights to movies like Dune and Godzilla vs. Kong, both technically Legendary Pictures movies. They put up 75% of the budget, yet Warner Brothers put in the rest of the 25 and was able to do something drastic like, I don't know, cost Legendary $200 million. Yeah, Netflix reached out to Legendary for Godzilla vs. Kong to stream on Netflix, and Warner Brothers turned it down. They are the reason why that deal did not go through. So now Legendary's saying, yeah, we can continue your plan. We'll put Godzilla vs. Kong on your HBO Max streaming service, but now you're gonna pay us $250 million. If not, we're taking this to court. And they have every right to do that. And yes, they will win that battle. Warner Brothers knows this because a lot of reports say they didn't communicate this decision with anybody. Most of the filmmakers for these movies that are coming out for Warner Brothers Studios were not told of this decision ahead of time. They found out about it on announcement day, like everybody else, online. The only team that was notified of this decision was the team behind Wonder Woman 1984. They turned to them and said, hey, Patty Jenkins, the director of the movie, hey, Gal Gadot, the star of the movie, we're going to project what this movie would have made in the box office. Let's say $1 billion is what they went with. And then they paid out the bonuses allotted to each of them and staff, assuming that the movie would have made $1 billion in the box office. I mean, that's fair. That's perfectly fair. Yeah, no, put that on the streaming service. I mean, you paid them out. They got what they were due in their contracts. But they weren't just releasing Wonder Woman on HBO Max, were they? No. And so many others want to know why they weren't told of the exact same deal and why they weren't notified about this announcement. I mean, only time will tell at this point, right? By the time you've seen this, Warner Brothers may have even come out and changed their moves drastically, or they're sticking to it. By the time you see this, a year could have gone by, and this either worked out great for the streaming service HBO Max, or didn't change anything at all, and I have just screamed fire for nothing. But as optimistic as I want to be, as hopeful as I want to be, that this isn't going to further the death of the theater-going experience, I can't be. Because so far, it hasn't looked good. And again, even before COVID-19, there was a huge decline of people actually going to the movies. You had Marvel put up a good fight and brought so many people back in to go check out the roller coaster that is their movies. I just don't know if it was enough. And I really worry about the future of theaters. And I don't know how many of them are going to bounce back from this year financially. And with moves like this, I don't know how many people younger will grow up used to the idea of a convenient streaming service rather than going out to the theater. Hopefully, by the end of all this, we're back in business, theaters are alive and well, and you and me can go and enjoy a movie the way the filmmaker intended. I mean, that's the best I can hope for. Thanks for listening.